You know, we're always taught that getting good with money is all about mastering the numbers, the spreadsheets, the formulas. But what if I told you that's only a tiny, tiny part of the story? Today, we're going to dive into why your financial success has way less to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave. And to really get this, I want to start with a story. It's a true story, and it perfectly sets the stage. It's about two people whose financial lives went in directions that, honestly, nobody could have ever predicted. Okay, so on one hand, meet Grace Groner. She was a career secretary who lived a very simple, very humble life. And on the other hand, we have Richard Fuscone. This guy was a Harvard-educated, high-powered finance executive living the high life. Now here's the twist. Grace died with a $7 million fortune, while Richard, he declared bankruptcy.
So you have to ask yourself, how on earth is this even possible? I mean, think about it. In what other field could a total amateur with zero formal training just completely outperform a top-tier, highly trained expert? You're not going to see that in brain surgery, right? But with money, it happens all the time. And understanding why, well, that unlocks everything.
Because the answer to that question, it reveals the single most important skill you need to build wealth. And I promise you, it's not what they taught you in school. So this is where we basically flip the common wisdom completely on its head. We're told that finance is like 80% head knowledge and 20% behavior. The reality? It is the exact opposite. Success with money is a soft skill. It is dominated by your psychology. And that's the whole point, right? Doing well with money isn't a hard science. It has so little to do with how smart you are and so much to do with how you behave. Richard Fuscone was brilliant, no doubt, but his greed, his ego, his impatience, that's what led to his downfall. Grace Groner didn't need a fancy degree. She had patience and discipline, and that right there made all the difference. And this quote from Morgan Housel just sums it up perfectly. It really all comes down to this. Your unique personal history, your ego, your fears, your pride, these are the things that are really at the wheel of your financial ship, way more than some number on a spreadsheet ever will be. All right, so with that in mind, let's break this down into a few practical and honestly pretty counterintuitive lessons about how to build real, lasting wealth. Okay, lesson number one is a big one. You've got to get the goalposts to stop moving. See, modern capitalism is incredible at creating two things: wealth and envy. The problem is that social comparison, looking at what the other guy has, it's a battle you can never, ever win. There will always be someone with more. So the hardest financial skill of all is just knowing when you have enough. And, you know, we're all wired to do this. We're trained to judge wealth by what our eyes can see. We see the luxury car, the massive house, the incredible vacations, and we think, wow, that person is rich. But this is where we get it so wrong. And that brings us to this huge paradox. Being rich is what you see, but being wealthy, that's what you don't see. Spending your money just to show other people how much money you have is literally the fastest way to have less money. Because real wealth, it's the money that you haven't spent. It's the car you didn't buy. It's the investments that are just sitting there, quietly compounding. It's unspent assets that give you freedom and flexibility. That's true wealth. And for our third lesson, this one is absolutely critical to understand. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skills. I mean, they require opposite mindsets. Getting rich usually takes optimism, taking risks, putting yourself out there. But staying rich, that takes humility and a healthy dose of paranoia, the fear that you could lose it all just as quickly as you made it. So, okay, if wealth isn't about the fancy cars and the big houses, then what is the point? What's the real goal here? What's the ultimate prize for all this discipline and patience? It really boils down to this quote, which is just fantastic. And look, this isn't about being lazy or just doing nothing all day. It's about autonomy. It's the freedom to control your own time, to choose what you work on, when you work, and who you work with. I mean, it's incredible when you look at the research. Having a strong sense of control over your own life, that's a better predictor of happiness than your salary, the size of your house, or how prestigious your job is. That control is the real prize. So this is the highest dividend that money pays. It buys you options. The ability to handle a surprise medical bill without panicking. The power to quit a job you can't stand. The flexibility to wait for the right opportunity to come along. And to retire on your own terms. That is the ultimate return on your investment. All right, so how do we tie all this together? how do we put this into practice? It really comes down to one last super important shift in how you think. Here it is. Less ego, more wealth. That's the mantra. Managing your money is really just about managing yourself. True wealth is built in that space between your ego and your income. The smaller you can make that gap, the more wealth you can build. Your financial journey, it's an internal battle, not an external one. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. A financial plan is great. You absolutely need one. But your financial future won't be written on a spreadsheet. It's going to be written by the story you tell yourself about what money is for. So what's your story? Because getting that right, that's the only thing that truly matters.